Hi there, welcome back to the Sprinkle Factory. I'm Tony, and today I'm going to be covering part 2 of our 3-part series on 2-zone prints with your Sprinkle Tray XL. Today, we're going to be going over how to split images into 2. Before we get started, you're going to want to make sure you've downloaded the Canva templates that I'll be using in this video that we have available for you at the following link. So go ahead and hit pause and hop on over and make sure you have those so we can get started. And once we've got those ready, let's head on over to Canva. First, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to split one long image into 2 perfectly divided parts for use with 2-zone printing on the Sprinkle Tray XL. Then we'll go over some tips and tricks on choosing designs and how to best work with them in this 2-zone printing method. Now, my goal with this tutorial was to find a method to do this that was quick, easy, and free for everybody. So no matter if you're a Mac user or Windows user, you can follow this tutorial and get the same results. I understand that you might have different softwares available that maybe you could achieve the same results in a different way that you prefer, but I like to make sure we have one way that's universal for everybody. So that's why we're doing it here in Canva. Taking a look at our Canva screen here, you're going to see that we actually have 2 templates available for you here. Canva and most softwares don't allow you to work with 2 different page sizes on the same screen. So this first template has the full actual Sprinkle Tray XL that's 9 inches by 4.5 inches. And the second page here has the split images, which are both 4.5 by 4.5 images. We're going to start with the full tray template. You'll notice that I have a slight pink line here that's actually slightly offset to the center. And we'll talk more about this here in a minute and why that's there. But for now, the first thing I'm actually going to do is duplicate this page. You don't have to do this, but it's a good habit so that way you're working with a new page and you always have that original available for next time. So now that I have that page duplicated, let's go ahead and bring in one of our Sprinkle Factory tall designs. I'm actually going to work with this tall hamburger here because it has the perfect dividing point, and this is the ideal scenario for dividing an image into 2 prints. On this first template, we need to size the hamburger to the same size as our actual cookie. So under the Positions tab, I'm going to size mine to 7 inches. Remember, the more accurate your measurements are to your actual cookie, the better outcome you're always going to have with editing. We'll go ahead and center it here, and then we need to choose a splitting point for our hamburger. I chose this design because it has a perfect, nice straight line here, basically right down the center between the cheese and the tomato. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here so we can see really closely, and then I'm going to move my design up so it's just right at that pink line. Let's zoom in a little closer so you can really see, but I really want my design cutoff point to be just touching that pink line. That's a little too far up, so I'm going to bump it down here. But if your movements are too harsh with your mouse, you can always come over here in the Advanced tab and you can change the Y-axis with your keyboard. It's still centered, so we're good to go. Zoom out here. Now let's chat about that pink line for a moment. In this template, it obviously served as a way for us to have a visual mark on where to split our design. If that's the only purpose you're using it for, you can go ahead and delete it now since we've duplicated this page, or you can also turn down the transparency so it just disappears, but it's still there. If you don't want to export it into your final images, I'm going to actually leave it on, and you'll see why here in a moment. So let's go ahead and export this image by selecting Share, and we are going to hit Download here. We want a file type to be PNG. We're going to leave the size as is. We're going to leave the transparent background unchecked because we want it to be white. And I'm just going to select my first page here, the current page I'm on. And then I'm going to go ahead and select Done and download this image. And I've actually already downloaded this image, so I didn't have to go looking for it. So it's over here on my desktop. There it is. So I have it ready to go So I can just drag it in. So let's go to our second Canva template that has our split pages. And now we're going to drag in the exported hamburger page that we just made. And when it's ready, we'll just drag it on over to our first page here. And you'll see that it comes in small for some reason, but it has the square further out from the hamburger because we have that white space. We exported the full page. So we're going to resize that now to 9 inches, unlike sizing it to our cookie the first time. Then I'm going to center it vertically and to the top of the page. Then what I'll need to do is I'm going to right click and copy this, and then I'm going to click down here onto my second page and paste it. So now I have 2 of these, and I need to position this one to the middle and bottom of the page. So now you can see I have a perfectly split hamburger image. And we'll zoom in so you could take a close look here. And you'll also notice that once again, we have that pink line. And as I said before, it's not perfectly centered. It's actually bumped up a little bit. And here's why I did that. I like to leave mine on for this process because then when I go to print this on my sprinkle tray, that pink line will print across my sprinkle tray and it will give me a nice mark outside of the cookie to help line up my cookie where I know that print is going to split. And we'll jump back to that in a moment, but let's go ahead and export these images that are ready to print. So we're gonna head on up to the share button again, and we'll follow the same process as last time. We're gonna select download, PNG, and transparent background should be unchecked. And then we're gonna actually do pages 1 and 2 this time. So once we have these downloaded, we're good to print. And we'll do so using the same process that we covered in part 1 of this video series, the top of the hamburger being zone 1 and the bottom of the hamburger being zone 2. But before I move on to a few tips and tricks on picking and choosing designs for this print method, let's go back to that pink line saga one last time. You might be wondering, what if that pink line shows up in my prints? And fair, it might. So you can do one of 2 things. First is to create 2 sets of prints, one with the pink line for your sprinkle tray and one without it for printing on your cookies. But you may be able to just kind of hide it. So if I select my pink line here and then I go on over to the colors panel here, you'll see I have a section called photo colors. And I can actually choose the red from this hamburger image and make it match that part of the print. So if I'm printing with a lot of white space around the edges, I might still see it, but I might also hide it. I maybe should have chose yellow though here, but you get the point. Choosing the color kind of hides it as well. So you have that option too. You could also lower the transparency, and depending on your alignment, it may not show up at all. So delete it or keep it, do with it what you want, but that information is yours to now play with. Before we wrap up this video, let's chat a little bit about the designs, where we would like to split them, and what's best to use in this 2-zone process. I didn't want to break up the actual tutorial with the step-by-step process in the beginning, so I didn't touch much on this. And honestly, I feel like I could have a whole TED Talk about this, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least chat about this in this video, because picking the design and working with it in the best way is really kind of half the battle here. Sometimes I think with Eddie, he is such an amazing tool, but we kind of forget the artistry that goes behind cookies, and we want everything to be done for us and really easy and really quickly. But we forget that the intent of the design is super important. So sometimes specific designs are just not going to look as good as others in different ways that we use them. As for the Sprinkle Factory, we're going to be working to update some older tall prints and create some new ones that are specifically made for this, that have a perfect breaking point, and we'll even split the images for you at that point. So be on the lookout for that. But I know that you're not always going to be using our designs. You might have created something yourself or have brought it in from somewhere else, or it's a company's. So let's talk about some tips and tricks on best splitting these images, what to look for, and how we can kind of hide our two-zone print process with Eddie. So let's take a look at a few of our existing designs and how I would tackle them. First, this tall Christmas tree. Honestly, this guy is the opposite of the hamburger. He is not ideal. I'm gonna set them all to 7 inches so they're realistic, just because I'm picky like that. Okay, so no matter what I do, when I'm looking at this Christmas tree, there's really not a good spot to split it. Everything is kind of just wonky here. We've got these sharp little angles. So no matter what, I might see a slight shift in alignment when I'm doing a two-zone print. And you might think to move it into the green solid here, but even then, I feel like I actually see the difference in print more so when I'm printing solid like that. So that's not ideal either. What I would probably do here, because I like a combination of printed and piped cookies, I would actually probably go ahead and print on the plaid. So I would pipe white and print on the plaid on both sections. And you can leave the green there too, but then I would pipe over it with green solid icing. And I feel like that would get the cleanest, nicest print on this tall design, but I would still be able to use this extra large print concept. So that's one way to do this. Taking a look at another design, let's look at this leprechaun here. He actually doesn't have a perfect line across his hat, but I would still use that split because it would work really nicely if I wanted to pipe on the nose. So in this case, I love to give texture and add on piping, like I said. So I would go ahead and split it right here. And then I would pipe on the nose on top because that's going to hide most of the split here anyways. So that's another solution to making this process work with us and for us. Taking a look at one more, we'll go ahead and look at our Santa here with a chimney because he's actually pretty ideal too. So he has a natural split part right here at the chimney. So I would probably split it right here if I wanted to print the whole thing, and it would be pretty darn close and you wouldn't really be able to tell that I split this image. However, another option we have here is I would probably also pipe over the snow here because I would want to add sprinkles, of course, and make that snow sparkle and probably his little mittens. So since I'm going to pipe over that snow, I would go ahead and tuck my cut line right in there on that snow because nobody's going to ever know because I'm going to hide it anyways. So he is a great example of a print that works really well and how we have a couple options here to split him up. And that's it for this tutorial, guys. As always, I hope you learned something new and you're excited to try it out on your own. Until next time.